recording, and we're on. So we've discussed, I think, what did we discuss last time? It was it dilemmas and tautology and paradoxes, or was it something else as well? What did we discuss?
Relatability, credibility, significance, validity.
Information. How do we evaluate if the information is good enough to make a strong argument? So we've discussed that, right? Today we are going to discuss another thing that is basically whenever we are making an argument, we have to see if the information, going back to that topic, considering it that you have to see if your information, whatever data, whatever premise you are taking, is it reliable? Does it come from a credible source? Does it have you can see better later. Yeah. Does it have a better? So if you have anything to say, please type it down. So I will know if you are saying something. So if the information source is it consistent? Is it coming from a credible source? Is it significant to what we are saying? And if the thing is it valid? Is the information valid anymore? Is it relatable? Is it updated? So that is what we discussed. If you haven't seen that yet, so what I'll do is that I'll put a link here, and you can see that video again. Okay. So a question related to the quiz, please go ahead, ask whatever question you have. You can ask directly or you can type it, whatever you want. What's the question? Go ahead. Zaina, go ahead.
सर उसमें क्वेश्चन था फर्स्ट वाला शादी कर ले तो जो खाया वो पछताया और जिसने नहीं खाया वो भी पछताया तो उसका जो एक्चुअल आंसर था वो शायद आई गेस डिलेमा था तो मुझे समझ नहीं आया कि डिलेमा क्या था चेंज कर दीजिए सर बाकी सही था
Okay. So my first question is that everybody here has attempted the quiz or not? Is there anybody here who has not attempted the quiz? Please say so. Everybody here has attempted the quiz?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the first, I'll tell it to you right now because you have already attempted it, but the time is still going, so don't tell it to others because that would be unfair. The answer was the question was yeah, जो खाए वो पछताए, जो ना खाए वो भी पछताए, right? So in both cases वो पछता रहा है. In both cases वो पछता रहा है ना. तो जब दोनों ही केसेस में यानी कि अनडिजायर्ड रिजल्ट है तो इसका मतलब ये डिलेमा है. It's conflicting. It's not conflicting. There are two possible scenarios and both are undesirable. क्योंकि दोनों में पता है. Once the quiz is done, I'll explain the answers as well, all the answers. So let's just move on to our topic for today, which is logical fallacies. Now, the term logical fallacies means, the word fallacy in itself means this, that a fallacy is any statement that is misleading. Misleading means that it is not true, it is taking you somewhere that is not true, or is not valid in any way. It's something that we want to keep away from. Now, whenever we are using some argument, we are making an argument, then it's possible. There are two things possible. The first one is that we fall into a logical fallacy, which means that we do something that is misleading, a statement that is somehow misleading, and it is not. It is going to actually undermine our main argument. So, for example, if I insert a premise that is not related, for example, I say that the Muhammad Ali Jinnah University is doing its best to make sure that learning is continued by having online lectures. And I say that then another premise is there that are being done interactively in live sessions so that students can interact and ask any questions. And then I say that Muhammad Ali Jinnah University has big campus in which there are physical facilities to hold 50 classes at once. So these are three premises, and the conclusion is that it's a good university or something like that. But the problem is in this argument is that the third premise about the physical premises is not related to the first two. So it's not going to help in this argument, rather it's going to take away our mind from the first two, the topic that we were trying to design, or the point that we were trying to make. So instead of making the argument stronger, it makes the argument weaker. So we should not go for these fallacies. Now there are many types of fallacies, many. So we are going to discuss a few so that we can understand, and then I will also give you a quiz related to this, that which kind of fallacy is this statement, does this statement or argument have, and you can select them, and then you will understand how it works. So be sure to listen to this, and then whenever I will upload it on YouTube, and then you can view it again, and then you can attend the quiz. I'll give you 2 days to do that. So we start off with these, and what I've done is that instead of looking at me, you should look at the picture. So guys, can you see this picture?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is a picture I got. It has many logical fallacies, just as a summary of those fallacies all in one. Is thou shalt not commit logical fallacies, which means you should not commit logical fallacies. And what is a logical fallacy? It says here below, a logical fallacy is a flaw in reasoning. strong arguments are void of logical fallacies, while arguments that are weak tend to use logical fallacies to appear stronger than they are, which means that logical fallacies are sometimes used deliberately to actually make an invalid argument seem stronger. An invalid argument or a weak argument seems stronger than it is. So the first thing is that we should avoid these logical fallacies, and another thing is that we should also understand that if anyone else is making a logical fallacy in their argument, then we should be able to identify those logical fallacies, and then we should be able to find the crack in the argument whenever we are making a counter argument. So these fallacies are good because when we are preparing our argument, we should be able to remove these fallacies, and then if somebody else is doing it, we should be able to identify and have a counter argument. So we'll start, and I'll just try to zoom in on each of these so that you can, even if you cannot read them, no problem, you can at least read the main words, and then I'll explain them. So the first argument is the straw man argument. The straw man argument means that misrepresenting someone's argument to make it easier to attack. A straw man argument means that whenever you are making this argument, we are here, just in case you are wondering, the straw man argument. Now, what's a straw man? A straw man means that what we also call a scarecrow, a man made of straw, usually placed in the field so that the crows do not attack or birds do not attack the farm in the yield and get the yield, the plant. So the straw man argument means, now if you attack a straw man, that straw man is not likely to defend or attack you back. So if you are making an attack on a straw man, it means you are trying to make an attack on someone who is not there to defend himself. So sometimes we do that. We actually turn our argument towards something that is not related, and we actually attack somebody else rather than the one who are the argument that we are making. I'll give you an example. Let's take okay. For example, we say that right now, full lockdown. What happened? Sorry, are we back? I guess I'll put it up again. Here we go. Yeah. So the government is saying that we are not going for a full lockdown because means that the premise is mentioned afterwards, even though it is the premise, because people will die of hunger before they die of the virus. Now, a counter argument, if we make a counter argument, and many people are making this counter argument, that it means that the government does not care about the health of the people. They are not caring about the health of the people because they are not serious about the mental. Now, this is a straw man fallacy, a straw man argument against the government, because the government says that they are concerned about their health, but they are also concerned about the hunger. That is why they have to manage both. It doesn't mean that they are not concerned about the virus. But the strawman argument actually targets somebody who is not able to respond, or somebody or some argument, some point that is not able to respond back. If we are saying this, that if you are, for example, I say that online lectures are really good and we are learning a lot from these classes. So a student says that this means that the university physical classroom was not good. And you mean to say this. And that would be a straw man argument, because I did not say that. I did not say anything about the physical classroom. I only mentioned the online classroom. But implying a meaning and then targeting that meaning in such a way that the original argument looks bad, that is a straw man argument. So we should try to avoid the straw man argument, and also we should actually remember why we should remember this word, because if somebody does that, then we are just able to say that your argument is a straw man argument. So please do not use that. And the other person would not be able to go on with that kind of argument. So that's called the straw man. Then we have another one which is called the slippery slope. The slippery slope. The slippery slope is a very interesting argument and used a lot by our media, and you will find this in many blogs and these kinds of articles, especially these the conspiracy theories that you see are using slippery slope all the time. For example, slippery slope means that if any event happens, then another event will also happen. And that event is very, very remotely related. Let me give you an example. For example, I say that if the government enforces lockdown in Karachi, a full lockdown for a month in Karachi, then our imports and exports will be affected. Number two, that's the immediate effect. If the imports and exports of are affected, then we will not have many products on the shelf of the supermarket, and a lot of foreign exchange that we were getting in terms of dollars due to exports, that will also be reduced. So that's the second level effect. If the products are not there on the shelves, then people will be disappointed and they will be angry and they will want to have these things, and then they will try to find these things elsewhere. So this will cause people to go out of their homes and roam around more in the city. And when they will roam around more in the city, then they will interact more with other people. When they interact more with other people, then the virus will spread even more. So hence, the argument is that if we have a full lockdown, then people will actually go out more and more virus will be spread. Now this is an interesting sequence of events that is anticipated in this argument. starting from this point that if the lockdown is there, then this will happen. If this happens, then this will happen. If this happens, then this will happen. From continuing with a series of incidents until we reach a very drastic point and we say that since we do not want the spread, therefore we should not do the first incident. The first decision should not be there. However, this does not happen in reality. Slippery slope means that you are trying to make an argument assuming that all of the events that you describe happen exactly the same way as you think they will. But that will not happen. That is of very, very low probability that all of those incidents happen the same way. That's why slippery slope is a very obvious kind of fallacy. Then we move on to another, which is special pleading. Special pleading means for example, if there is a claim by somebody and the claim is proven to be false, then the other person actually changes the argument midway. And they say, no, I'm not saying this, but I'm saying that. For example, here it is saying moving the goalpost or making up exceptions when a claim is shown to be false. Which means let's start with a false claim. For example, I'm saying Pakistan has more coronavirus victims than Italy. And somebody says, no, that's not true. It's not even close to be true because we have only about 54 casualties while Italy has more than 15,000 casualties. So it's not even comparable. So, and then the person says, no, what I'm trying to say is that the victims are not tested and they are in their homes and they are, therefore it is not, we have more victims because we don't really know the real numbers. So the person changed the argument midway because it was proven to be false. And then if we say that, how do you know that they are at home and they are not actually, they are victims and they are having the virus, but they are not tested, how do you know? And then the person again changes the goalpost between the objective of the argument and says, we know this because we see that many people have died, about 5,000 people have died in the last 10 days or so in Pakistan, but we don't really know how they died. So they might have died from coronavirus. I was just thinking. So this kind of argument is put apart by actually keeping on falsifying the claim that the other person is making. So special pleading means that you are just trying to make a point, and if the premises or the conclusion is proven to be false, then you change the premises midway, which is a very obvious fallacy. Then we have false cause. Here we are, false cause. False cause means presuming that a real or perceived relationship between things means that one is the cause of the other. This is a very common fallacy. It is a very common fallacy in research as well. When we are making an argument in research articles, sometimes this happens that we say that there is something that is a correlation and then there is something that is causation. So it's the famous story of the ice cream and the car. Do you know that story? The car and the ice cream, the car that broke down because of the ice cream. You guys know that story? Hello?
No, sir.
Okay. So there is a story that says that there was once a person who bought a car, and in the first few days when he was using this car, just after 2 weeks or so, he called the company and says that I have a problem with this car, and the problem is that whenever I have vanilla ice cream, then my car breaks down. Whenever I have any other ice cream flavor, then it keeps on going. So the car company was baffled by this kind of claim that the car only breaks down, the car doesn't start only when this person has vanilla ice. So it was a very weird claim, but still the company sent a person to investigate. And when they went there, the person said that, okay, let's go to the ice cream shop and then buy this ice cream. So they went and they bought chocolate ice cream. The car started and they came back. And then the next day, they went again to the ice cream shop and they bought vanilla ice cream. When they bought vanilla ice cream, the car really did not start. So even the person, the investigator, was surprised at how did this happen. But then looking at the situation very closely, he found the answer. The answer was that at the ice cream shop, the vanilla flavor was very popular, and so it had a huge line for people that wanted vanilla ice cream. So they actually put the vanilla ice cream at the back where there was a huge line, and so in that line, people usually took a longer time to get the ice cream as compared to the other ice cream. And since they took more time to take the ice cream, the time that the car took by the car was not started in that time. Actually, the car had the problem that it did not start when about half an hour had passed away. So but the person perceived it like that it's because of the ice cream flavor and not the time. So even though the thing they were correlated, the vanilla ice cream and the car not starting were correlated, but it wasn't caused by this thing. Similarly, another very typical example used in research is that whenever summer is there and the temperature increases, then people become more angry. And when they are more angry and they are frustrated, then they commit more crimes. Also, when the temperature rises, people have more desserts and ice cream and cool things. So if you correlate the two things, it means that people who have more ice cream commit more crimes. Because whenever the ice cream consumption increases, the crime rates also increase. So there is a correlation between these two. But it doesn't mean that ice cream causes crime. So false cause means that if two things are happening together, it does not mean that they are related with each other. Okay, so you get the idea. So correlation is not causation. Another important, very interesting fallacy is ad hominem. Very, very, you can say, commonly used in Pakistan and elsewhere in the world. When people, it's simply this, that instead of attacking the argument, a person attacks the person or the character of that person rather than talking about the argument. For example, if somebody says that this education system is not good. Our education system is not good. So instead of talking about the education system, you say, "Oh, really? So what have you done for the education system?" Or you say that, "Okay, really? So how much have you studied? What's your degree?" If you are here to criticize, what's your degree on how highly have you studied? Or if there is a person who says that we should try to reduce corruption in Pakistan. And instead of, for example, if there is anybody who is from any political party and says that we should try to reduce corruption in Pakistan, and instead of saying that we should do that, we say that really your party, that person from your party is doing corruption, and what are you doing about it? So instead of counter-arguing that statement, we attack the person's character. And why is it so popular? The question is, why is it so popular to do that? Now, ad hominem is very popular because when a person is making a very logical, clear argument, and the other person suddenly attacks that person's character, then the person becomes emotional. And that person feels bad because it's kind of a bullying that's happening when you are attacking that person's character. So that person feels bad, that person feels bullied, and that person becomes emotional. And when that person becomes emotional, then that person is not able to carry on the logical argument that he or she was making. So this is very popular to actually to divert the other person's logical argument to an emotional side. And this happens, what happens is that the other person gets angry, and when the other person gets angry, then the person who was actually committing this fallacy ad hominem wins by saying that you are just angry and you are not listening to me, and this is not fair, and that's why I'm not going to go ahead with this argument. So this is called ad hominem. Then moving on, we have loaded questions. There are many fallacies, so probably we'll do half of them today and half of them in the next class. Or I'll just put up a video related to this because there are many. So a loaded question. A loaded question means, or it's also called a leading question. A leading question is a very tricky kind of question. It's a statement stated in such a way that whatever your answer is, it's going to make you look back, no matter what your answer is. I'll give you an example and you can understand very quickly what I mean to say. For example, if somebody says in a courtroom to a person who is questioned for murder. So, and the other person says that, did you murder your friend because you wanted his money, or you killed him because you just hated him? So that's a leading question, because in either case you are you still seem guilty. Or another better example would be So if you ask somebody, a married person, have you stopped beating your wife? Have you stopped beating your wife? So if somebody says if the answer is yes, that means he has stopped beating his wife, and it means he actually beat his wife earlier. But if that person says no, then it means that that person is still beating his wife. So in either case, the person is going to look bad. So it's a loaded question. If you ask somebody, have you gotten rid of the drugs that you kept at home? So the other person cannot answer yes or no. In either case, he is confused. He cannot answer it. So it's called a loaded question. It's a fallacy. And instead of answering this kind of question with a yes or a no, you should say simply that this is a leading question. I'm not going to answer it. So you should know that how to actually answer this kind of question. Then we move on to the gambler's fallacy. Yeah. The gambler's fallacy is very interesting. It actually it has two opposing kind of fallacies inside the gambler's fallacy. The gambler's fallacy means, for example, I say that if there are 10 apples and 10 oranges in a bag. So there are 10 apples and 10 oranges in a bag. And I randomly select one fruit from them without looking. So, and if I say that the first one came out to be apple, and the second I picked up also came out to be an apple. So I say that because this is a trend and this is going on, and the first two are apples, therefore the third must also be an apple. And that argument does not stand anywhere, because if you just calculate the probability of selecting one apple at random, it's the same probability of selecting an orange. So if somebody says that it's not according to probability but according to the trend that's happening, then it's a gambler's fallacy. And we should say that no, it is always the probability of it is always dependent on the possible scenarios, rather than having this thing that because there is a trend. Also, the gambler's fallacy works in the opposite way as well. For example, if I say that I took out 5 fruits and all of them were apples. So because I've taken out so many apples, now it is highly unlikely that I will have another apple. The 6th will also be an apple. So it's not possible. I will most definitely have an orange. But it's again a possibility that you will have a 6th apple. It also depends on the probability. The probability will be less, but it's still there. So a gambler's fallacy is when that you actually just ignore the probability, and you just think that since there is a trend going, the trend will also keep on going in the future. However, that's not true. Then we have the bandwagon. Bandwagon effect is very simple. This one is pretty simple. Bandwagon effect means that you don't really verify a claim according to the facts, but instead you say more people believe this to be true, therefore it is true. More people believe this to be true, therefore it is true. Now this is very interesting, and this kind of bandwagon fallacy is a very bad, you can say, pitfall in research. For example, if I ask people that what is the capital of Pakistan? Which city is the capital of Pakistan? And I ask this from 1,000 Pakistanis. So I ask this from 1,000 Pakistanis, even if these Pakistanis are very illiterate, then even if somebody is so illiterate or they are so much naive or they don't know anything or they are just 4-year-olds, even then you will see that the answers will be 99% the same answers. At least 990 of the 1,000 people will say that Islamabad is the capital of Pakistan. But if I ask this question from, let's say, 1,000 people in Slovenia, if I go to Slovenia and ask 1,000 people there, so it's very possible that they have heard of Karachi more than Islamabad. And if they have heard more of Karachi than Islamabad, then it's possible. For example, we hear of the state New York more than we hear of the state Washington. So if we are to guess, we don't know. If we are just to guess what's the capital of the United States, we might say New York. Just like that, the Slovenians might say that it's Karachi. And if they say it's Karachi, then we say that because a lot of people are saying it's Karachi, it must mean that this is true. However, that's not always the case. Even if a lot of people, even if the majority says something that's true, and we have the wrong sample selection, we are asking the wrong people, then we will have weird kinds of, you can say, argument, weird kind of answers. For example, I'll give you another example. If I ask you, do you know what glass ceiling is? What's glass ceiling? Anybody? Have you studied that word yet? Just asking so that.
Sir, HR.
In HR.
HR में term glass ceiling.
So you studied it, right?
Yes.
So if I ask a number of BBA students in their final semesters who have studied HRM, and I ask them what a glass ceiling. So will they say that it's a ceiling made of glass, or will they say it's an invisible barrier to people of certain gender or certain races that they cannot get promoted that easily? Which of them will they say?
Glass full of field.
Sir, the second one.
It's the second one or glass? The physical glass. Physical ceiling made of glass.
लोगों ने इतना सुना नहीं होगा. So
if I ask a BBA student.
अच्छा. Okay, then there is a second option.
Then I am asking the last semester students of BBA. Then the answer will be the second one. If I ask a lay person out there just wandering on the street and say what's a glass ceiling, they will say it's a ceiling made of glass. So if I am asking as many people I want on the street and they all have the same answer, it doesn't mean that the answer is right. So So bandwagon effect means that even if the majority of the people have the same answer, but they are not the right persons to ask this question, then that is a fallacy. So whenever somebody says that a majority of the people have this opinion, you have to ask as a counter argument that what was your pool of people that you were asking, that in which you are asking if that's the majority, right? So that's called the bandwagon and how to deal with that. Okay. Then we have this black or white. Now this is a very interesting kind of fallacy. For me, actually, these are all very interesting kinds of fallacy. Once you get to know them closely and you get to observe them in real life, then you will also be very excited about them. So black or white fallacy is also interesting when we say that we present only two alternatives to anyone to choose from and say that these are the only two. So if you are not doing this, it must mean that you are doing that. For example, if I am saying that if I ask an intermediate student who has just graduated from the intermediate, and I am saying that are you going to be enrolled in, are you going to give the test for BS Computer Science? And the other one says that no, I'm not. So, and you say that, oh, okay, it means that you are going for BBA, right? So the other person might say, no, these are not the only two choices. But if you present it like that, the other person thinks that these are all only the possible choices. If you ask somebody, are you going to have biryani or chicken tikka? And if there are 10 things on the menu, that's a weird statement to say. But the other person still falls for it and their choices are reduced. So instead of doing that, we should identify that if there are more possibilities, then we are not going to be tied down by only two choices. Now, usually this black or white fallacy is used when we want the other person to choose a certain thing. And then we give the other possibility as a fake possibility. Now, I'm going to share this secret with you because you are studying this logic, and whoever is here is going to know about this secret, but it's going to be on YouTube so people will know. And apologies for the teachers as well who use it all the time. So I do this with you as well. What I do this with the students is that I say, are you going to give a quiz today that is going to be very easy and you have no time to prepare? Or you are going to give the quiz later in which the quiz will be very hard? So more people or I just say, are you going to give the quiz? Are you going to give the quiz that is you can select one of these? Do you want to give the hard quiz or the easy quiz? And you think about it and you keep thinking and you say, we want to have the easy quiz. Actually, I didn't give you any choice of saying that we are not going to give any quiz today. We want to prepare and then we will give any quiz. So, instead of doing that, I make you select the option that I was trying to give you. But the hard part was just there so that you choose what I was actually asking you to choose. I was asking you to choose to give a quiz today. So I say that, are you going to give a hard quiz today or an easy quiz today? And you say, easy quiz, easy quiz. And I say, okay, fine, your choice. So that's how this black or white fallacy works. It makes you choose between one of the two things, and also that one of the thing is seemingly better than the other, while the other is only made as a decoy to just make your choice easier. However, you can say that this is a kind of a logical fallacy, and I'm not going to choose either of these. Let's finish these off and then we'll wrap it up for today. So, begging the question, we are here. A circular argument in which the conclusion is included in the premise. Begging the question, or you can say a looping argument. A circular argument. Now, a circular argument is easy to identify because the conclusion is included in the premise. Included in the premise how? For example, if I say a certain desert that is, I made a desert with lots of sugar, and the conclusion is that it is sweet. So I already said that in the argument, in the premise. It's already there. I don't have to say it again. It's a kind of a tautology. So when you are using a kind of a tautology, it means that the conclusion is already there in the premise. If you consider the premise to be true, you automatically consider the conclusion to be also true because the conclusion is also already there. So, for example, when he killed that man with a knife, he did not know how to hide that knife. The conclusion was he was caught because of the knife. Actually, the statement here includes that he killed the man. However, we haven't proved that just because the knife was found, it doesn't mean that he killed it. So the conclusion, actually, the implied conclusion is hidden in the premise, and that is not a good idea. And that is also not we should not accept it, because just because something happened doesn't mean that any other assumption made in the premise is also included in the conclusion. So begging the question is another kind of fallacy. Let's see how many more we have. Yeah, let's do these two and then we'll wrap it up for today. The appeal to authority. So appeal to authority means that just because an authority thinks something, therefore it must be true. If the authority says it's true, it must be true. Now what's the authority? Authority means here that any authority, it can be the government, it can be any medical authority, it can be any religious authority, it can be an authority based on some kind of assignment or some kind of legitimate authority. For example, usually this kind of fallacy we see in the classroom. For example, a teacher says that this is so, and then the student says that I don't think that's true, and the teacher says I am saying it, that therefore it is true. Now that's not a valid argument, because it has to be true because it is true. You have to back it by facts, not because the teacher says it's so, hence it becomes true. So by saying that an authority thinks something is true is not so. That's called appeal to authority. Yeah, or just like that, if you say that a certain religious leader has said something is true, it must be true without verifying it from the religious text or the scripture or any other way. We just appeal to authority and we take it to be true. However, that will be fallacious. And then we have the appeal to nature. Appeal to nature means that making the argument that because something is natural, therefore it is valid, justified, inevitable, good or ideal. All of these things are sometimes attributed to something that is in nature. Now, how is that so? For example, if we say that it's okay to be barbaric when we are killing an animal. It's okay. How is it? Because it's natural. We go to the jungle and we see that a lion just go hunts its prey and it eats it in a very barbaric way. It cuts it open and it's fine. It's natural. Or we say that that it's okay to expose ourselves because we see that in nature animals do that. So it's natural. It's okay. It's justified. Or even if we say that in nature we see that things animals kill each other. It's natural. So we can also kill each other. It's okay. We do not need to have legal proceedings for that. It's natural to have to share the same. There is no ground. There is no ownership of ground in the jungle. So we should not have ownership of land in the city as well. So these kinds of arguments are made by appealing to nature. However, they might not be applicable in the the human world, we can say, because there are certain things that are there in nature, but they are to show us that we are not supposed to do those things. We are not supposed to bite other people. We are not supposed to kill other people. We are not supposed to take their land. And we are not supposed to do these things. So all of these things might exist in nature, but they are not. But they are there to tell us that we are not supposed to do these things. So appealing to nature is one of these fallacies. So that's it for today. We have many other fallacies. But what I'll do is that once we're done, either I'll make a video of these or we will do this next time in our class. And then I'll post a quiz related to this. I'll post a quiz related to some of the previous lectures relating to maybe information quality. And I'll give a quiz on that. So for today, we're okay. Hatim, yeah, want to ask a question? Or anybody else wants to ask a question? We still have about 10 minutes, so you can ask anything. Or should we complete this lecture? Okay, go. Nawab. Should we continue with the lecture? We have about 10-15 minutes. Or should we keep it till here? Anybody? Hello? Are you there? There is a confusion between strawman and what? And special pleading. Strawman means that you are targeting a statement or a person who cannot fight back, which means you are doing something, you are placing the blame on something that's not able to defend itself. For example, if I say that actually Pakistan is behind in education because of poverty, and because we are poor, we are not able to send our people to school. Now, how is the poverty or the fact that we are poor going to defend itself? Nobody can defend that we are not poor. Nobody can say that. So this argument actually attacks a point by saying that is to blame, rather than actually saying that we are lagging behind in education because that is not our priority. Even if the correct way to counter this argument would be to say that that's not true. It's not because of poverty, because a large number of poor people send their children to school. Even we have thousands of schools like the Citizen Foundation who are there, who just charge even like 20-50 rupees from these children, and they provide them education. So poor people also send their children to these schools. It's not because of poverty, it's because of priority. So this kind of argument can be counter-argument. This is strawman. Special pleading, however, means that you are actually changing your argument midway. You made an argument, and when you found out that this argument was not was falsified, then you changed the argument. While you were making the argument, you first said this, and then you said, no, actually I was saying this. So, for example, if you say that in Pakistan, education is, again, you start with this, that you say that education is not good in Pakistan because we do not have enough money to send our children to school. And then you say, no, it's not so. We have many schools that do that. No, but the quality of the schools is the quality of the schools is very bad. That's why this is happening. That you say, no, that we have good quality schools as well. You can send them and they don't charge as much. No, but the number of schools that are of quality are very low, and the other schools are very high. And then you say, even then, you can still learn things from other ways, and you can, if you want to learn, then even you can get your children educated. Yes, that's true, but actually the government is not spending much on these schools. You keep on changing your argument whenever the claim is falsified. That's called special pleading. We find that a lot in Pakistan. People change their things. Another confusion between loaded question and black and white. Loaded question is pretty simple. Loaded question means that you ask a question. Yeah, both are questions. Black and white is also present. And loaded question means that you are actually leading that person to answer and you are actually trapping that person that whatever answer he gives is going to look bad. Whatever answer. But in black and white, black or white, you actually say that you only have two choices, black or white. You cannot have gray. While gray is actually possible. So you ask them to choose between two things. In loaded question, you are not asking to choose between two things. Instead, you are saying them to answer a question, and when they are answering it, it makes them look bad. For example, if I ask you, did you cheat in your metric exam using kharra or without, or you cheated without a kharra? So whatever your answer is, it's going to make you look bad because it will say that you did cheat. That's a loaded question. Black or white means that you ask between two things, and one of them, you are stuck between choosing one of them. You cannot have the third one, or it looks like you cannot have the third one.
सर आपने कहा था कि ब्लैक एंड व्हाइट के अंदर टीचर्स जो है अक्सर चॉइस देते हैं कि कोई ये वाला लेना है या ये वाला, तो इसमें तो लीडिंग रखना कि आप जो आसान वाला जो
It doesn't make you look bad. Doesn't make you look bad, no? In the choice, you just have a choice. Doesn't make you look bad. In loaded question, you are trapped, and when you are trapped, it makes you look bad. That's the point. If it is just a choice, answer and a choice. In black or white, you have a choice. In loaded question, you have an answer. That's the difference. False cause means correlation. Correlation versus causation, the ice cream story. If there are two things correlated with each other, then it doesn't mean they are caused by one another. If something is increasing, another thing is also increasing, doesn't mean they are increasing because of each other. For example, if I say that when you started school, it must have been which year? Must have been this is 2020, so must have started around 2000 or 2002 maybe, right? You guys must have been in class 1 in 2002.
Yes, sir.
So when you started school, our inflation rate was very low in 2002. And from then on, we have had an inflation rate of more than, for example, 10%. So because you guys studied in school, and since you have been studying, as your education has increased, our inflation rate has also increased. So our inflation is actually because of you guys studying at school.
Understood, sir.
That's called false cause. The cause is false. When I'll give you actually what you do is that you should, I'll give this picture to you. I'll just upload it on Google Classroom, and then you can pick these from this picture, search them on Google, take more examples, I'll also upload a video, another video about the logical fallacies. So you do that, and I'll also give a quiz and an assignment. So one assignment and one quiz coming up in the next 2 days. Be sure to submit that. Okay, so anybody else has any questions? Or shall we close our lecture for today? Really? What activity? Please share with us. Did you do it online? Do you have a link?
सर आपने जो लिंक अपलोड किया चलो से रिलेटेड जो वेन डायग्राम वाली
Yeah.
है ना कि all fruits are apple and all apples are banana, उस टाइप एक चीज आपने अपलोड किया था.
Okay. I'll actually give you more so that you can keep on practicing. Syllogism needs some practice. When you do it many times over, then you will understand it. Also, I'll give you some videos if I have not already. I think I have, but I'll upload some more.
ये सारे जो आर्गुमेंट्स है ना सर एक साथ एक ही जैसे ही लग रहे हैं कुछ कुछ तो थोड़े से डिफरेंस है लेकिन कुछ तो एक ही लगे.
Then you will see more examples, then you will be able to differentiate between them. Okay, so we'll keep it till here now, and then we can continue on the rest of the logical fallacies from next time. Okay then, everybody, Allah Hafiz, and see you next time. Be sure to submit the assignments and quizzes. And also tell the others if they are just not looking at the Google Classroom, because there were some students, weird students, who were still asking for the Google Classroom code. So please wait. Okay? Thank you, and Allah Hafiz.